Have you ever asked the people who know you best, what am I missing and what's actually holding me back? In this episode, I hand you the exact 360-degree feedback script that flipped the way I see myself, my business, and my potential. Welcome to the Mind of George Show. This is where you, as an entrepreneur, either know, discover, rediscover that true scaling isn't about hacks or tactics. It's about aligning your mindset, your messaging, your marketing, your customer journey so that you can create sustainable growth in an authentic and aligned way. And over the last few weeks, I have been in annual planning rooms from Cancun to Barbados to Tucson, Arizona, sitting with leaders, C-suite executives, and teams with over 100 people deep. And we were in one simple exercise to get structured feedback from 3 people who knew us the best. And the result was incredible. We had faster breakthroughs, more clarity, worked together as a team, unlocked our superpowers, and it was instant instead of months of trying harder. And I personally got to find and face some brutally honest patterns I had for myself, like pouring out for everyone else and leaving nothing for me, or using my faith as a pause button instead of a shovel, and trying to feel my way into action instead of acting my way into feeling. So in today's episode, I wanted to share the exercise that I typically only do with my private clients for you to use. And it's the exact 5 questions to send to your inner circle so you get clear, usable feedback instead of like vague, you're doing great. I break down how to turn that feedback into 3 to 5 concrete patterns that you can actually work on this quarter and measure yourself against. And because I opened the door, I decided to share how I'm using my own feedback to stop the overgiving, to stop delaying timelines, and to actually start bringing things into alignment for my life and my business that matches who I want to be and who God wants me to be. So I cover all of that in this episode. So if you feel like something's off or like you're working hard, growing, quote unquote, doing the work, but you can't quite see what everyone else see, or you're really kind of ready for that mile marker check of how you're doing, this is for you. So grab a notebook, think of 3 people you're going to send this to, which I tell you who to choose, and let's turn that feedback into action items. So share this with one friend who's ready to see their blind spots and commit to their next level and do it together. But without further ado, let's get into the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. And listen. I'm in my living room. I decided to set the mood. That is a real fire. This is not AI behind me. But I need to share the most incredible thing with you, which is the incredible tool, superpower, exercise that I'm going to share with you today. And I want to give you some context. So you'll notice I have my iPad in front of me if you are watching this. And it's because I have copious amount of notes for a very simple exercise that I guarantee will supercharge your life and your business if you take it seriously. And the reason I'm sharing this is, if you follow me at all, if you've listened to the podcast, I have been on the road for the last 3.5 weeks. I was in Cancun for a wedding and a business trip. Then I went to Barbados, which absolutely beautiful. If you've never been to Barbados, you've got to go to Barbados. Their national dish is macaroni pie. Not relevant to today's conversation. Changed my life. I can't live there where I'd be 400 pounds. Absolutely incredible. Then I left Barbados. I went to Tucson. And in that span of 3 weeks, I have been in 3 annual planning sessions with my clients, leaders, C-suites, entrepreneurs, coaches. And at every single one of them, we focused on the year and we focused on growth. And we did this exercise, myself included, for every single one of them. And it drastically transformed our perspectives, our focus, how we feel about ourselves in the business, what we're going to lean into, how we're going to support each other as a team. And so this exercise is for every single human being, whether you are an entrepreneur or not, whether you're a team of 1, a team of 2, a team of 10, or the biggest that we did this is a team of 170. And this is called the 360 feedback, guys. And I've gotten feedback in my life. I ask my incredible partner, Kate, for feedback. I ask my friends. And I have to admit this, I have never gotten feedback in such a productive and structured way that was immediately implementable. And I want to share the whole exercise with you. And I think it's a perfect time. It's January, or listening to this February 2nd, I believe. I'm only recording this a couple of days in advance, but it is something that I'm going to bring into my calendar, into my life, and into my year, both on the business and the personal front, once a quarter. And I am sharing this because I got to be in the room. And one of the groups, there were 7 of us, and we did this before we met, before we got to the annual business planning. And not only did it drastically transform each one of us, it drastically transformed how we worked together, how we understood each other, how we leaned into each other's strengths and weaknesses, both on the personal front and the business front, to be able to achieve massive, massive success in 3 days. Like, I'm talking about the ground that we covered would have taken months. This changed the game. And so I am going to be looking at my iPad because I don't want to butcher this. I want to give it to you directly how I did it. And then I'm going to give you some reflection questions. And I'm also going to share some of my feedback. And ironically, some of this feedback, if I went back 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, would have been hard for me to read. And now I look at it with excitement. And I think it had to do with the level of framing and how I asked for this feedback. Me knowing that people giving me feedback are because they see my greatest potential and they love me and they want me to be my best. And then doing it with other people was absolutely incredible. And so this is the exercise. So I'm going to break this down into 2 distinct parts. I'm going to share with you the 360 exercise. So get a pen and paper, or come back to this, pause it, come back. They're not hard to remember. They're not hard questions. And then the second thing is how to reflect on those questions. And so I'm going to read you this exactly how it was read to me, because this was given to me. It was co-created by us as a team. And then I went through this verbatim as it is. So the purpose of this 360 feedback, this structured feedback process collects powerful insights from those who know you best, illuminating both your unique strengths and your potential blind spots. These perspectives will serve as critical inputs for your exploration of your vision, your business, your life, and where you want to take it. And they provide external validation for patterns that you may already sense internally. Now, the one note that I want to share here is there is no positive and negative feedback. There's just feedback. What you do with it dictates which lens you put on it. And I think all of us get to understand that there's no finish line, but we all want to be better. We all want to grow. And the only way to grow is with direct feedback. And the most transformative growth that we can achieve occurs at the intersection of our self-awareness, matching or meeting external perception. So what we know to be true about ourselves and what other people see to be true about ourselves, the things that we share in common are spot on. And then the things that are out of whack or out of alignment are for us to explore. And this exercise creates a rare opportunity to see yourself through trusted eyes, people that you know you, that you trust. So you'll find patterns, you'll find strengths, and you'll find some growth edges that you get to lean into that sometimes we can't see for ourselves. Okay. So the way that this exercise is done is you're going to pick 3 individuals, and this is important. These are 3 individuals who know you well, and most importantly, whose perspective that you value. 3 people who know you well and whose perspective that you value. I'm smirking because I'm going to let you unpack what that means for you. But don't get feedback from somebody that you don't want to hear it from, that you don't respect. And I have to say that. So I want you to think about these people as people who have observed you across different contexts. So they know you in business, they know you in your life, maybe you have a personal relationship with them. People who will provide honest and thoughtful feedback, and people that represent different domains in your life. And so for me, I used Kate as my partner. I used my best friend, TJ, who doesn't work inside the business and is only occasionally seen me in the business. And then I used our incredible CEO, Ashley, who knows me both personally and professionally. So for you, this might be a spouse, a partner that you care about, a family member, a longtime friend, a professional colleague and mentor, a coach of yours. But I want you to pick between 2 and 3 people to do this exercise. Now, the way that this was briefed was having a brief conversation with each person. And I'm going to give you the framework for that. The way that I did it was asynchronously. So I sent it to them and I asked them in their time in a couple of days to provide feedback. And I said, I just need a couple of short sentences. And I didn't get a couple of short sentences. I got 4 pages from one of them. I got 3 pages from another one. And I got 2 pages from another one. And it blew my mind that they took so much time. But if you're going to do these in person, which you can, and I'm totally okay with that because that's how this was designed, you want to set aside uninterrupted time for the conversation. You want to be somewhere where it's safe, not where there's noise, not where people can't open up. And you want to prepare yourself to receive the feedback, not getting defensive, not justifying it, not defending it, but actually just hearing it. Because just because somebody gives you feedback doesn't mean it's true, but it's definitely worth exploring. And so the way that we framed this for the team, because we sent this out to the team, was if you're framing the conversation or asking somebody to do this with you, I'm participating in a retreat with my team focused on the future of the company and my personal growth. And I'm seeking honest feedback that will help me grow. Your perspective is valuable to me, and I commit to receiving your feedback only with gratitude. No defensiveness or explanations. I will simply say thank you after receiving your thoughts. So you have 2 options when you conduct this. You can either sit down with somebody in person, or you can ask to do this asynchronously and remotely. If you're doing this in person, I highly recommend you record it because it's going to be hard to remember everything. So if you're doing it in person, record it in an audio note on your phone. If you're doing this remotely with somebody you care about on Zoom, make sure you record the conversation so that you can come back to the feedback. Okay. So now here are the actual questions that you want to unpack. Okay. Question number 1 is, what are 3 things you appreciate about our relationship and about me? What are 3 things you appreciate about our relationship and about me? Number 2, what are 3 things I could improve on in how I show up? What are 3 things I could improve on in how I show up? Question number 3, what are 3 ineffective patterns I have that I might not be aware of? What are 3 ineffective patterns I have that I might not be aware of? Number 4, what do you believe might be holding back my fullest potential? What do you believe might be holding back my fullest potential? And then number 5 is, what unique strengths do you see in me that I might be underutilizing? What unique strengths do you see in me that I might be underutilizing? And when you collect this feedback, those 5 questions are it. If you do it asynchronously, you will send it to them. They will send you their answers back in written form. My people were incredible. They put it in a Google Doc, organized for me. And then I got another one in a very long text message, which I saved into that same Google Doc. If you are doing this in person, you can take notes, but I also recommend that you record it so you can come back and reference it. Because what you want to do is you want to document that feedback, and then you want to take some time alone to review that feedback. Could be 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes. I took an entire flight because I had 2 flights on my way to Tucson to review all of this, and it was beautiful. And what you want to be looking for is you want to be looking for patterns. You want to be looking for insights. For me, I was looking for the things that tickled. When I read them, I had an emotion in my body because I knew they were true. And so what I did for the feedback and how we ran the meetings is we basically summarized them so that we could share. So I'm going to give you the 4 buckets that we used to summarize them. So bucket number 1 is, my summary was, what were my biggest blind spots? So I looked at all of the feedback and I asked myself, what were my biggest blind spots? Number 2 was the feedback that was the hardest for me to hear was. And I summarized and organized the feedback that was the hardest for me to hear. Number 3 is, the feedback that surprised me the most was, and I wrote down and summarized the feedback that surprised me the most. And then number 4 is, the patterns that I now notice are. The patterns that I now notice are. So what those 4 summary points allow me to do is to look at something very easy and be like, yep, those are my blind spots. That feedback was hard for me to hear, so I can unpack and look at why. The feedback that surprised me the most was, and this is where I realized that sometimes I struggle to receive compliments or words of affirmation. And then the most important one for me were the patterns I noticed, because those patterns are what I now get to work on intentionally. I can take them and put them into my quadrants. What am I doing intentionally every single day in my body, in my mind, in my spiritual faith with God, in my business? And how am I measuring new action? How am I committing to doing something different? And because I think it's important to live authentically, and I've always done this, I love public accountability, I'm going to share some of my feedback. And so real quick, before I share my feedback, just in case you didn't get all the questions, I'm going to give them all to you one more time. I'm going to give you the 5 questions to ask and then the 4 buckets to summarize them in. So question number 1 is, what are 3 things you appreciate about our relationship and me? Number 2, what are 3 things I can improve on and how I show up? Number 3, what are 3 ineffective patterns I have that I might not be aware of? Number 4, what do you believe might be holding back my fullest potential? And number 5, what unique strengths do you see in me that I might be underutilizing? And then when you're summarizing them, these are the buckets to put them in. Bucket number 1 is my biggest blind spots were. Bucket number 2, the feedback that was the hardest to hear was. Number 3, the feedback that surprised me the most was. And number 4, the pattern I now notice is. And for me, there was a common theme in the blind spots. And I have verbatim some of the things they said. You need to show up for yourself more. Where does George come in? What are your needs, your boundaries, your desires, your preferences? You're so committed to everybody else that you get in the way of taking care of yourself. Your loyalty is a double-edged sword. Your commitment to others creates a feast or famine pattern in how you show up because you overextend yourself. Sometimes you stay in an overwhelmed or reflective stage internally instead of processing it with somebody who can help you work through it or prioritize. You are like a visionary. You are a visionary who is overwhelmed, but that's like a lighthouse with no light on. And I love my people for tying into references that land for me. And you give your best thinking away to everybody else before you secure your structure. So those were some of my blind spots. The feedback that was the hardest to hear for me was where I was called out of avoidance of some things in my life. And one of those things is avoidant of my own life, because I will go firefight in everybody else's life or help people I love or care about because I feel like I have to earn their love. And I will neglect myself and put it on the back burner. And that was really challenging to hear because it's something I work on and I've made massive improvements. But it landed immediately and I knew I did it. And one of them verbatim said, if you attacked the buckets of your life that you avoid with the same consistency, intention, and drive that you approach your faith, where would you be? That one landed really, really deeply. The other one that was really hard to hear was that my faith in God sometimes manifests as faith in others to do the right thing, even when it's clear they aren't doing the things that need to be done. And so I've heard this before where I hold such a high belief for people that sometimes I self-sacrifice or allow myself to be hurt in multiple buckets. Just if I pray my way through it, if I keep praying for them, if I keep guiding them and I keep mentoring them. But what actually ends up happening is I hold people back and I internalize a lot of that and I eat it. And a lot of times I have to release that because I'll use it as judgment of myself. And then the big one, the big one that I'm laughing because it landed hard, is that you have a habit of delaying timelines to curate a feeling that you believe must arrive first. The feedback that surprised me the most was, and this one was powerful, is every single one of them said that they were struggling and feeling like they had to dig to find patterns of things that I could improve on. And they all acknowledged me for how much growth I had, how far I've come, because each of these people has known me for an extended period of time. And what it rewired in me was that belief that I'm always broken or I don't make progress or that there's something wrong with me. And what it really allowed me to do was to see the fruit of all the growth the fruit of all my effort, the fruit of the things that I work on to improve myself. And that really landed deeply for me because I have this default of there's never enough, or I'm stuck in these old patterns, which was extremely powerful. And then I think the most powerful part of this, and I wasn't going to share all of this, but I'm going to now, is I wrote down 5 key patterns that I'm going to be intentionally working on in 2026. And I'm going to check myself against them in a quarter. And I ask these same people to give me feedback and a couple of new people because I want to be able to measure my progress. Just like I want to be able to go to the gym and see that I'm getting stronger or that I'm running faster or that I'm losing weight. I want to be able to measure my progress. And so I wanted to know what those like big 3 to 5 patterns were that I was committed to growing, that I was committed to learning from, that I was committed to improving on. And so the first pattern number 1, is that I pour outward first and I pay for it later. And so some of the things that they had said is you allow everyone else to have needs and desires, but where does George come in? Your all-in dedication sometimes drowns you instead of grounding you. And you care so deeply and incredibly for those around you that when it's time to take care of you, it's often not from a place of replenishing, but it's just to overcome your depletion. And so for me, this was very, very grounding. And it's also really easy for me to measure and to change because I can see it in an instant. I can see where I don't prioritize my mornings or my prayers or my workouts, or I don't have boundaries, or I feel like I have to respond to everybody at that one sentence, or I'm always a yes man. And so this one's really easy for me to measure. And that's pattern number 1. Pattern number 2 was how sometimes I use my faith to become a pause button. And so you've heard me say on this podcast before that I forgot that when I prayed to God to move mountains, I woke up with a shovel. Well, sometimes I accidentally find myself praying to God to move mountains. I wake up with a shovel and then I go back and pray for a different shovel. And that's not what I'm being asked to do. And so all of the people I love reminded me that the only way through is by picking up that shovel. And that's something that's really easy for me to recognize as well. Pattern number 3 is about reactivity versus proactivity. And because I will overgive and say yes to everything, I will be reactive to all the demands and needs around me. But what it doesn't allow me to do is to be proactive in the areas I want to grow, which is this one, which is what I'm putting into practice right now. And so it creates this urgency over and over and over, and it constantly feels like I'm fighting fires. Things that you've heard me say, because none of us are immune to this, and I do not have this figured out. I just very openly share my journey. The 4th pattern was the most powerful one for me. And the way that I summarize this one is that I try to feel my way into action instead of acting my way into feeling. And this one was specifically around like delaying timelines, or waiting till all the stars align, or waiting till the evidence looks a certain way, or waiting till the situation looks a certain way. And then the situation will say, oh, George, you feel good. Now go act. Now, I've been taught how to do this correctly my whole life, since being a Marine to then becoming a personal development coach to being now a high performance coach, executive coach, helping people scale. But just because I know the prescription to dole out doesn't mean I don't get to remind myself to take it. And so this one was all around the reactivity and delaying timelines. And the goal here is to be proactive. My actions are actually which dictate my feelings. There's an incredible method on this. If you've never looked it up, by Brooke Castillo, it's CTFAR. Our circumstances, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and our results. And I know for me, in all my moments of life, all my breakthroughs, all my growth, they didn't come because I felt like doing it and I did it. Those results came because I didn't feel like doing it, but I took the action that my future self would thank me for. And then I ended up in the result that I wanted. And so this one was a very stark reminder that that pattern never goes away. And it's always about proactivity. I don't know if that's a word, proactivity. And then the last pattern, you've heard me say this on the podcast before, that I was stuck in life for so long because I was so comfortable reading the old story that I was afraid to pick up the pen and write a new story. And so the way that I summarized this pattern was old chapters still tug at the pen while I'm writing the new one. And one of the things that I self-admittedly struggle with is allowing my previous choices, actions, and behaviors to dictate how I see myself in the present, to self-deprecate. And I have every solution to this in every angle, including my faith. But there's this wiring all the way back to when I was a kid, that the things that are worth having, that I have to struggle for, I have to suffer for, or I have to push really, really hard. And what that leads me to is that I have to handle everything alone. And I'd say that that's probably, out of all this feedback, the one that I'm most excited about, but also the one that I'm most proud of. Because each one of these people, when sharing the feedback, said they were struggling because they've seen my growth. And one of the other ones that surprised me the most is that they all acknowledged me for how I don't try to do it on my own anymore. And then I let people know my feelings, and I let them know when I struggle. I let them know when I'm tired, and I actually ask for help. And so the reason I share this is because there's no black and white to this. There isn't like, oh, I'm complete with this. And there isn't bad and wrong. There's just awarenesses and areas of opportunity. And I have the biggest smile on my face right now if you're watching this. The fire is also really warm, which I love. But I have the biggest smile on my face because in asking for this feedback, I was able to see that 2 years ago, there were things I thought I'd never change. I'd never grow from. I'd stuck there my whole life. And then now this feedback, all of those things are gone. And I made massive progress in all of them. And these people that love me the most are giving me little bit of tweaks to that just help me be better, to help me be happier, to be a better partner, to be a better business owner, to be a better coach, to be a better friend, to be a better father, to be a better child of God, to do better in the world, because that's what I want to do. And without this feedback, I wouldn't be able to do any of it. And so I get to show up for myself more. I get to know where to draw the line. I get to communicate my feelings. I get to ask for help when I need it. I get to prioritize myself. I get to keep my best thinking for me and still give it away, but make sure I'm using it on me as well. And all of these things are opportunities that just help me be better. And so the reason I wanted to share this is because not only was this profound for me, but it was profound for everybody involved, including the people who gave me feedback. They all thanked me for asking. And then they were like, can you please do this for me as well? This would mean the world to me. And I've never asked anybody this, and no one's ever given me this feedback. It is so sobering in the best way. It's eye-opening, it's exciting, and it gives us just opportunity and possibility. And even this morning on a couple of my coaching calls, I shared all of this with my clients, and they're having their entire teams do it. So some of them, it's their mid-managers with their staff, but all of them are doing it, and they're going to collectively meet about it and share their feedback to help each other. So this helps us in every bucket. It helps us in the personal bucket. It helps us in our interpersonal relationship buckets. It helps us in the business bucket. And however the feedback shows up is perfect. And it's not one and done, and it's not forever. It's an opportunity and something to focus on for the next season. And it's so easy and so clear. And plus, I am the king of gaslighting myself, convincing myself it's one way when it's actually the other. But when you have 3 people who know you the best, give you the same feedback that you pretend isn't there, including the feedback that's positive, that's like reinforcing and you don't acknowledge yourself for, it's hard to hide from it. And so for me, it was just like this quick installation hit of like, yes, this is exciting. Let's go. And so I wanted to share that with all of you. I went a little longer than I thought, but I decided I would unpack all of my notes. And so my patterns are something that I get to work on for the next 90 days, 180 days, and really for the rest of my life. But all I did was take each one of those patterns and I asked myself one question. What are 1 to 2 things that I can commit to taking action on every single day that would be the solution to this pattern. And I listed out those behaviors. They become my wedge of expectations, or what's now called the consistency compass. And I can look and see my progress on those. Did I hit my steps? Did I prioritize myself? Did I put myself in my calendar before I put everybody else in my calendar? Before I say yes to every request, do I pause and ask myself, do I have the ability to do this, the capacity to do this? Is this out of self-sacrifice, or is this out of service because I filled my own bucket? And now I know whether I'm on the right track or not to growth, and it's something that I get to prioritize. And so I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, consider me in my living room as like the tattooed, bald Mr. Rogers sitting by a fire. Like, I implore you, I encourage you, I invite you to please, please, please do this. And you don't have to be like me and publish your results on a podcast for a lot of humans to hear. But I hope in sharing that you're like, oh my God, we all get it. No matter what, we get it. And it's just an opportunity. But I invite you to do this and do this deeply, because I feel like it is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. And it helps you recognize very clearly, and be cheesy, what your superpower is, and also what your kryptonite is that prevents you from using that superpower. So if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. It would mean the world to me if you did this exercise and you let me know that you did it. You don't have to share your feedback, but I just want to know, was it effective? Did you learn? Were you excited about anything? I just ask that every single one of you that's hearing this, there's a reason you're hearing this, and I don't believe in accidents. So let this be the invitation to do this. I love you to pieces. I appreciate you to pieces. And I can't wait to hear your results, your feedback, all of it. But I'm going to end the episode. So no matter where you are in the world, I love you. God loves you. And most importantly, you got to remember that relationships beat algorithms, especially the one with yourself. And the best way to grow it, the best way to honor it, the best way to love it is to do this exercise and also have the people around you that you love and trust the most do it, so you can see how to honor it, how to cherish it, how to embrace it, and how to get the most out of it. So I will either see you in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.